This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether mom's into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried-and-true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, you can save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with up to 50% off site-wide during Movement's Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Xcast. As ever, the truth is in here. I am your host today, Carl Sweeney, and this is the second day of our coverage of episode 7 of season 11, Followers, and Sarah Blair is back with me. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Carl. I saw your X in the window and I came. Your summons. I'm here.
Yeah, good to see you again. And we're talking all about Dana, Catherine, Scully today. Because normally I think we'd talk about Mulder and Scully on these season 11 podcasts together, but here we didn't really have any of the characters to discuss, so we've kind of split them up. And they were split up for a lot of the episode, weren't they? And we've already talked a bit about Mulder. I mean, what about Scully then? Because Gillian Anderson gives a good performance, I think. I have seen some people commenting that, like, when she's like laughing in this episode and stuff, she sounds more like Gillian than she does like Scully. I don't know if you felt that.
Who cares? She's happy and she's having fun. Who cares what her laugh sounds like? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was in the restaurant at the beginning. I thought it was a very charming moment, actually.
Yes, yeah. Why not let Mulder and Scully have a little fun?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to be too superficial, but this is an episode all about the visuals. And Scully's got a new wig, of course, hasn't she?
Yay, Scully hair. Looks great. Yep.
I thought it looked pretty good too. Pretty. Would you think it was an improvement on the previous revival era wigs?
Definitely better than season 10. Yeah, her hair has looked great this season. I like the. I mean, it's not her hair, so it's not perfect, but as far as Scully hair goes, it's great. And so it's good to see. I wish there had been something about why she got it chopped, but no girl needs a reason. If she wants to get her hair chopped, get it chopped. It's good. It's all good.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that was one of the things that made me wonder if we were in a simulation in this episode.
Yeah, I wonder.
It didn't. It wasn't spelled out anyway, if that was the case. And so, like at the restaurant, Scully's kind of absorbed with her phone, isn't she? She's reading an article, and then she's kind of bombarded with all this information coming in. Something from the restaurant about her meal, and then a follow request from the restaurant. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know about you, but I always find that kind of thing kind of an irritating thing to deal with.
Yes, I don't like notifications on my phone, but if I download an app, I immediately turn off all the notifications, all the locations, all of that. I don't like to be bothered by my phone and marketing and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, me neither. And I did notice that the article she was reading was about AI posing a bigger threat to the US than North Korea or something like that. So, again, very nicely tied into the overall message of the episode. And then as they leave, when they leave, she gets into a self-driving car that's been sent by the Whips app. Whips with a Z.
Yeah, that freaks me out too. Would you get in a self-driving car?
It's one of those things where I've read some articles about it, and the kind of stats are mounting up that it should be safer, should be more reliable than being in a human-driven car. But I don't know, unless you've... I think I would miss the element of control that you get when you drive a car.
Yeah. Well, when we were living in Silicon Valley, we had the Google car coming around a lot. And the only time it ever got in any accidents were when the humans who were driving around it hit it instead of the other way around. So I think if we all had automated cars, that it would be much safer. But I think when you add the human element with the autonomous element, that it's going to cause a lot of problems. So it needs to be all or nothing, I think. But I mean, I think it would be great to get flying cars, but what a disaster. I mean, we can barely handle the roads on the actual ground. I don't know what would happen if we were all flying around like the Jetsons. That would be even worse, probably.
But with the self-driving cars, I mean, it's an interesting time now, isn't it? Because they're on the cusp, it seems, of becoming, more widely used, or I think some states already legislated in the US to kind of for them to be able to run on the roads and that kind of thing. So it's something that could very, very much date this episode quite quickly, isn't it? Because what looks a scary prospect now, it might be that in 10 years these things are pretty much commonplace, or 15 or 20 years or whatever.
Yeah. When Ghost in the Machine came out, we didn't have cell phones hardly, and now we've got the X-Files in our pockets that we can watch anywhere, anytime via Wi-Fi, and none of that was a thing 25 years ago. So we've come a long way. I wouldn't be surprised if you're right about that.
Yeah. Oh, but the other thing, though, is there could be all sorts of unintended consequences about it, is what I've been reading, that people just haven't foreseen. Like when cars came along and they sort of replaced the horse, people didn't quite see how it would turn out. The main thing was cars were thought to be a lot cleaner than horses. Yeah,
that was not correct, was it?
Yeah, so this could be one of those episodes. Like another one would be Eve in season 1, where it's all about in vitro fertilization and stuff. And from a modern standpoint, the technology looks a lot, it looks benign, it looks positive these days. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. It might be a fun one to come and revisit one day from that perspective.
Indeed. When we are recording our in-depth analysis in 20 years for the X-Cast, we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
But the main thing here, I think, was that Scully just had no time, did she, for the artificial courtesies of the that app or of the car when it was kind of wanting to make her more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And the car, as a kind of reaction to that, just sped up and
got a little testy with her. Poor Scully.
Yeah, it very much did.
She just didn't want to be bothered. I don't blame her.
So ultimately, though, she does get home, and Scully's house. Then this has provoked a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen this house before, have we? And
no.
What did you make of it? It was a very nice house, wasn't it?
It was so nice. I think I might have commented on Twitter. I don't know. Where did she get it on a G-Woman salary? Is this part of maybe what Mama Scully left her in her will? Or, what? I don't know. It was interesting. And I never saw Scully as the ultra-modern type. That would be her style, really. But, I mean, it makes sense, I suppose. But, yeah, I don't know. She seems more of a shabby chic type in her original apartment rather than the ultra-modern. But maybe her tastes have changed. Maybe she's, in this... I did like the setup with the water feature outside. That was pretty nice. I mean, it was a great house. I wouldn't mind living there. But yeah, it was interesting that would be something that she would choose for her. Or if, I don't even know if she did choose it for herself, or I don't know, maybe she inherited it, or who knows what.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know how she got this house, but I think it needed to be an ultra-modern house, didn't it, for this story, really? Because ultimately then the house becomes this kind of weapon against her, doesn't it, a bit later on?
It was definitely effective, I think, in presenting the smart house with all the stuff going on. all the crazy things happening around her. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's lots to break down here, isn't there? So there's a nice couple of nods to the original series, because first of all, her password for the alarm is Queequeg.
Queequeg. Poor Queequeg.
Poor Queequeg. I know you're not a fan, Sarah. And then we saw some hair dye cream, which says "Rocket like a redhead," and there was I don't know if you remember this episode because it's season 9, so you probably either didn't watch it or haven't watched it since. Yeah. But in Trust No One, there's a reference to somebody's been keeping surveillance on Scully, It's called the Shadow Man, and he mentioned something about a hair dye, I think, or a hair colour. So I sort of took that as a nod back to that.
Nice.
And then she gets this device delivered by drone, doesn't she? And then again, drone delivery is one of these things that's kind of in its infancy at the minute. But who knows, how commonplace it'll be in 5-10 years.
Yeah. We got an email about that when we were living in California to get on the list for beta testing for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so this zooms thing is like a little helper type thing, isn't it? And that kind of putters around and it uncovers something interesting underneath the bed, doesn't it?
I could not stop laughing about what Scully found under her bed. That was the best. This is probably one of my favorite moments. I mean, when we choose our favorite moments in our 5 questions of X, I think this might be my new one. Because it was so perfect. I love that I love everything that represents. She's like a strong, independent woman who gets what she wants. Yep. She doesn't need a man. She doesn't need Mulder. She doesn't need anybody. She's got her vibrator and she goes, she's got all that. So I thought that was a really awesome moment to show that she's a real woman and, all that kind of stuff to go along with that. Plus it was hilarious. So yeah. I'm still laughing about it 2 days later.
Yeah, I like the way it was done in quite a straightforward way. I mean, they do draw a bit of comedy out of it, but it wasn't done it wasn't too much of a nudge and a wink, was it?
Right.
And there's also the implication that it was under the bed, so maybe she hadn't been using it recently. So I guess that's kind of cool for the shippers to think about too. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the series is a bit more like risque now, isn't it? Because we've had a few things this season. Because there was the handcuff joke in episode 2, and then the reference to Mulder's juices in the last episode, Kitten. So, what do you make of all that? It's kind of out of character with the original series a bit, isn't it?
A little bit. They're getting a little risque, which is totally. I mean, it's good because Mulder and Scully. It's nice to know that they are mature adults and they're getting in the shipper stuff. So that's all fun. That's all good fun to finally. I think it's good to acknowledge it rather than try to just keep it on the down low, because everybody knows what's going on whether you say it or not. It's still there. So I think acknowledging it is probably a better way to go than to try to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's one of those things where probably there'll be some people whose mileage will vary a bit on that, but I think it's true to them, isn't it? It's true to where they are and stuff, and like you say, it's got some positive kind of aspects to it as well, hasn't it? So yeah, I quite like all that. So Scully's trying to get this thing returned, isn't she? So it's kind of amusing when she's trying to get through to the returns department.
Yeah. Who hasn't had that trouble before? I mean... Yeah,
definitely. And then she's got this thing where she likes to hold music. It's the same song again, Teach Your Children. So she kind of tethers it to her sound system. The volume just goes way up, doesn't it? So, even though it's we kind of talk about it as a silent episode or a near silent episode, it's kind of an interesting use of sound all the way through. And... yeah, then this thing where the house is kind of a weapon, the fridge is blasting these ice cubes at her, the coffee machine's going haywire, a fire starts. So
can you imagine if your house attacked you? That's the place where you're supposed to feel the most safe, and then all of a sudden your house turns against you. It's terrifying. I don't know. I had a hard time sleeping.
Well, no, exactly right. Your home is supposed to be where you're not vulnerable, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So... It is quite a frightening idea.
Yeah.
And, what I liked about this was, in Season 1, you had Ghost in the Machine, where you have, basically a prototype of a smart building, where the building turns against them. And I thought it was okay. But I think this took a similar-ish concept, and it did it really well, I thought, because I loved all that stuff in Scully's house.
Scully was the one in Ghost in the Machine who was clawing her way through the air vents, trying not to be sucked into the fan and dismembered by the crazy fan, and... so I think it's interesting that she was also the one being attacked by her house. That was a nice parallel there.
Yeah, and also it's something that like Clara's pointed out a few times on the podcast, which is like Scully's been attacked in her apartment, a lot during the course of the series.
Yeah, exactly.
Going back to people like Toombs, I suppose, and there are other examples as well. So I liked here that it wasn't like a human assailant or a monster; it was the house itself kind of turned against her.
Right.
Really liked it.
Yeah, it's craziness. So, yeah, I can't imagine what it would have been like if Mulder had been attacked by his house.
Well, he lives, we know he's got a very, like, Spartan lifestyle, hasn't he?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So it was appropriate for their characters, for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about the last few sequences then, because they reunite and they ultimately escape the Scully house, or Scully escapes from her house. I kind of missed how they got to this place at the end.
I didn't catch that. I don't know how they knew where to go or what to do, or there was a lot of this stuff that I didn't make a connection with, but I was along for the ride, so.
Yeah, Mulder whispered something to Scully, but I couldn't make out what he said, so I can only assume that that's like the missing piece, and that I know what he said.
Yeah, I can't remember. I always watch with the closed captioning on because I miss a lot of stuff like that, and so it was the name of... It was some name of some kind of... I don't know if it was a corporation or what, yeah. But it was a name of a place, and they went there, but I don't know how he knew to go there, so...
But anyway, they got there, didn't they, regardless, and it was very X-Files, wasn't it, with the flashlights, and this place was pretty crazy, wasn't it, because you had the robot dogs, you had like these like weird like nitroglycerin bullets, it looked like, that were kind of firing themselves at them.
That was so creepy. Yeah, that whole sequence was really scary. Yeah. The robots are coming for me, Carl. Watch out.
Everyone all right?
Sorry, guys, that's my toddler. I apologize.
No worries. Yeah, what about that final robot then? The one who kind of offers the phone, and then you get this like 10-second countdown, don't you?
He was staring at it was staring at Mulder. That was so freaky. Like, Mulder's just... I'm glad he made the right decision. And I don't know why he waited that long. I guess. I don't know. Just
even
suspense.
Then he stuck to like the minimum 10% of the tip, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that was funny.
I don't know why Scully wasn't just tip him. Just do it. Get it over with. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, what it led to is, I thought it was a pretty scary sequence, and once he's tipped them, you get this weird like celebration sound effect, don't you? And it says, the app says, "We learn from you." And Mulder has a line there which kind of sums it up, I think, which is like, we have to be better teachers. So it's pretty much reinforcing the message that's been set up through the whole episode, I guess. I like how they brought that all together.
They tied it all in. It was really good to come back to that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so then the episode ends with this scene at the diner, which I liked quite a lot, actually. I think, this will be a nice shipper scene too, where, there are some people around finally, but they almost revert back to kind of staring at their screens, don't they? But then there's this very like nice, tender moment with the hand holding. It was quite a sweet moment, wasn't it? Quite touching.
Shippers rejoice. Absolutely. Yes. It was a good moment. I love how whenever other shows have all the sexy times, and I'm an Outlander fan, I love Outlander, and they like really get it on and all that, but Mulder and Scully, when they even just so much as glance at each other, it's so intense. It's like everybody, all the shippers rejoice when we get a handhold. It's very sweet and endearing, I think. So that's one of the things I definitely love most about this show, is that we take what we can get as far as the romance goes. So, yeah. Yeah,
definitely. Like we said, it's one of those... This is a series where people scrutinise every like gesture, isn't it? So it's nice. I think it's quite fitting that this episode, with very little dialogue, ended with a nice affectionate gesture like that.
Yes.
So yeah, that capped it off nicely,
Yes.
I thought.
And the moment when Mulder, when they were unloading all their electronics, and Mulder noticed her vibrator, and they just exchanged that look. That was classic. That was the best.
Yeah.
I loved it. So good. Yeah.
It was, yeah, and like I say, it wasn't too much, was it? It was just kind of a very fleeting moment.
Yes.
But it did the job.
Exactly.
All right, Sarah. Well, I'll be talking to you again tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to focus on the writers of this episode, who were Kristen Cloak and Shannon Hamblin, and we're going to talk about the episode's director a little bit too, who's Glenn Morgan, of course. And in the meantime, people can find us on Twitter at @the_X_cast, or on Facebook at the X-Files Basement. But until next time, everyone, trust no one.